All right, let's get our cups up. Toast to the Morning Word crowd. God bless y'all and God bless America. 250 years worth. Okay, so here we are in the 25th chapter of 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel chapter 25. And Samuel himself dies. David is getting ready to ascend to the throne. And I'm not going to give you all the history that's happened in the last couple of chapters, but what happens here is David is still on the lam away from Saul. He has not yet ascended the throne. And while he's out there, he has been protecting people. So David's got 600 men with him now, and they are hiding out, have been hiding out in the plains of it and in the caves of En-Gedi, the wilderness of Ziph. And anyway, they come upon the land of a very rich man, and his name is Nabal. And Nabal was rich, and David had a bunch of, it says that Nabal had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. And so David sends word to Nabal that if he has anything, it was a feast day coming up, and he said, if you have anything that you would be willing to spare for me and my men, I would appreciate it. Well, Nabal, his name means fool. He's referred to in this text as a scoundrel, even by his wife. So he just dissed David. He said, I'm not giving you anything. I don't owe you anything. I don't even know who you are. And I'm not giving you anything. Well, the word came back to David. And David's running on a short temper, or David's running on a short fuse, and he's mad, and he tells 400 of the men that's with him, and he leaves 200 back, and he tells the guys, he said, put your swords on, and he takes a vow. He said, I'm not going to leave a male alive out of Nabal's family. I mean, he is bent out of shape. So one of the helpers that was standing close to Nabal when the messenger of David came, heard how Nabal responded and went and told Abigail, his wife. She said, Randy's paraphrasing, listen, this is what happened. Man came along, David's in the wilderness. He just asked if you could spare anything. And Nabal, he's a knucklehead, and he was really ugly to him and didn't give him anything. And the word is that David is coming to kill your husband, Nabal. Well, she hustles about, gets a bunch of food, some already prepared sheep, dates, raisins, and everything, and she's going out to intercept David to keep him from killing her husband. She is going to bat for that scoundrel husband, I guess, because that's her husband, right? And she has brought some food and stuff to appease David. So she intercepts David, and she appeases him with the food. But Nabal's, one of the young men, I'm going to read at verse 14. It says, now one of the young men told Abigail, this is important, Nabal's wife, saying, look, David sent messengers from the wilderness to greet our master, and he reviled them. But the men were very good to us. All right. So this is the helper telling Abigail, the men, David and his men, were good to us. Nor did we miss anything as long as we were accompanied by them when we were in the fields. David and his men had been protecting Nabal's workers while they were out in the fields, taking care of the thousands of sheep and goats that Nabal had. So David had been protecting Nabal's livelihood and his servants. Nabal didn't know or didn't care. And so this servant is telling Abigail, she said, they were a wall to us by night and day, all the time that we were with them keeping the sheep. Now, therefore, no one consider what you will do, for harm is determined against our master and against all his household. For he is a scoundrel that one cannot speak to him. In other words, this man you can't approach him. And he's a knucklehead, and he's going to get every one of us killed. You need to know that. So that's when she goes and she prepares the food, intercepts David, apologizes for her clodhead husband, gives him the food, and David is impressed. David changes his mind because of Abigail. And David goes out and takes the food, goes back and feeds his men, then sends back word to Abigail by one of his helpers. And Nabal eventually dies, all right? He gets killed. But David asks Abigail to be his wife. David's impressed with Abigail, all right? He said, I need a woman like that by my side, all right? Now, David messes up a little bit here, and it's just as a little side note. He gets Abigail, and then he gets Ahinoam of Jezreel. Both are his wives, and he already has Michal, Saul's daughter. And we know that she was pretty to look at. But obviously, Saul had kind of double-crossed David and turned around and given Michal to another man. David's going to go get her in a minute. So he's going to have 3 wives at the house. Now, I'm not going to make much comment about that other than he's got more than he can handle, all right? So, and it's going to be a mess. But the point is this morning is that David was not being unreasonable by asking Nabal for some food if he would spare it. He didn't come and take it. He asked him for it. And number one, in that culture, anytime visitors came to your house, you took care of them. And it didn't matter how many they had. You did something for them to show hospitality. That was the culture. And you washed their feet. You prepared something for them. We see that all through Scripture. Secondly, David had been providing a service to Nabal. He had been blessing Nabal out of Nabal's sight by protecting the men and the livestock that they were taken care of that belonged to Nabal. So David was a blesser of Nabal's family, and he just simply asked, he goes, hey man, if you got something, it's a feast day, I got a bunch of guys out here, would you be willing to help us? Of course, you know the rest of the story. So today's morning word is blessing the blessers. Blessing the blessers. We have people today, we call them veterans. They have blessed us. They've been a wall, as Nabal's servant said to Abigail. David and them were a wall between us and the bad guys, the sheep stealers and the goat stealers and the renegades. They built a wall around us of security. And so we have veterans today that have done that. We have police officers, law enforcement officers do that. All of our military personnel do that. And we should take every advantage that we have. We're not bound by the law to do this. There's not a rule from the Lord. There's not a rule, in culture, and there's not a commandment from the Lord to take care of these people, but we should. We see this here, that we should be appreciative of those who protect us, and when we have opportunity, to bless them in any shape, form, or fashion, from writing cards to supporting group homes and so forth and so on, and veterans benefits, and police officers supporting the Thin Blue Line. And we should be aware that they are doing that. We should be grateful that they are doing that. And then we should turn around and try to be a blessing to them in some shape, form, or fashion. But it shouldn't stop there. If there's anyone that's been a blessing to you, okay, we're not talking about your family, but people outside your family that have been a blessing to you that were not obligated to do it. They just of their own free will. That's what Nabal didn't ask David to do it. David said, you know what? We're going to protect the innocent. We're going to help. Nabal was prosperous. They didn't care. They said, this man has some property that people trying to steal it. We're going to protect his property. We're going to protect his sheep. We're going to protect his men. All we're asking is, hey man, if you get a chance, how about a little blessing, right? So we should think about those who bless us outside of our own families that have no obligation. People that just bless you and they have no obligation. They bring you gifts. They offer you services. They call, they stop by, they check, they encourage, they support, they provide some important service. Hey, listen, a school teacher from your past, a Sunday school teacher, uh, a, a Boy Scout troop leader, a football coach, a volleyball coach, a teammate, a neighbor, a fellow church member, someone that has just gone out of their way just because they wanted to and provided for you a blessing. You ought to bless them when you get a chance. People that, like Sharon Shirley and Paul, just bring, Tina and James Viney, just bring bags of food out of their garden that was hard to prepare, hard to plant, hard to harvest. And they just put it up in a sack and they just bring it to you. You need to be a blessing to them. Take them out to eat sometime. Call them. Reciprocate. Do something nice in return. Pay it forward. Somebody's done something for you. Maybe turn around and pay it forward. Maybe they're not to where you can repay them now. Maybe they've gone on to meet the Lord. You know, they're no longer here anymore. Pay it forward. Be a blessing to other people. David was a blessing to Nabal, and he was a scoundrel. You know, we're not here to just bless the nice people. Sometimes we bless the scoundrels, right? Because we could, and we're compelled. There's a compassion and a compelling and a desire to be a blessing to people. Maybe sometimes you just bless people because you're trying to overcome evil with good, right? And we should turn around and be a blessing not only to them but to others. We need to bless our blessers, right? And then we need to turn around and be a blesser. We need to bless our blessers and then turn around and be a blesser. See who we might be able to help, defend, feed, clothe, house, employ, encourage, support, sponsor a kid. You know, some people have the means and might want to sponsor a kid to a private school that would really want to go and can't. Of course, now we've kind of got that Choose Act stuff that helps, but there's still a lot of extenuating coverages of expenses that people could help. But, you know, feed some people, but always be mindful. Try to be mindful of the people. Again, I'll use it this way. Nabal had prospered. And like I said, he either wasn't aware or maybe he was aware and didn't care because he was prosperous. That David had provided a service to him. In other words, in a small way, in a small period of time, David had become one of the people who had helped Nabal prosper. They had helped him up. They had facilitated his upward mobility, right? In society. Maybe there's some people that's helped you succeed. That's helped you take the next step. That's helped you in your life advance. Again, I think about school teachers and Sunday school teachers a lot when I think about this. And maybe you need to turn around and be a blessing to them and encourage them. I remember, I think this lady's still alive, and I've had some conversations with her. When I was at Northport Junior High School, I'll close with this story. When I was at Northport Junior High School, I had an affinity for girls. Now, I know that that's not news to anyone about me, or about boys in general in junior high school. Hormones are flowing, girls are looking good. And so I had taken a fancy to this little blonde, I'm not going to name her name, and she and I had started talking to one another and walking the halls. I would meet her when her bus arrived, and I would walk up and down the halls with her before school and sit with them at lunch, and then after school we'd hang out a little bit until our buses came. Well, I had a teacher who was my homeroom teacher and also my Algebra 1 teacher. Now, she was much better for me or I can't remember, pre-algebra, whatever, but she was much better to me as a homeroom teacher than she was algebra. Math was not my forte. But One day, just out of the blue, because I didn't know anything about this girl. She was cute, she was blonde, she was petite, and I go, that's what I'm talking about, Alice. She just pulled me to the side. And she said, Randy, this is a school teacher. Randy, you're a fine young man. And I know that you've got big plans for your life. And I want to tell you something. That little girl that you're hanging around with is bad news. Now, she knew something about her that I didn't know. And subsequently, as I grew older, she was right. Just trust me on that. She said, that little girl that you're hanging out with is bad news. You do not need to hang out with her. You do not need to like her. You know, she was giving me that talk. In other words, she's saying, you need to cut the line on that fish, right? Just lose the hook, the bobber, the sinker, and everything. Just let that one go. Well, I did. I was raised up with respect for my elders, and then it was something about the fact that she just took the time to tell me that. So that afternoon, I didn't even show up to walk her to the bus and everything. And the next day she asked me, she said, why didn't you show up? I said, I'm not doing that anymore. I mean, I was kind of blunt. I'm just not doing that anymore. And that was the end of the relationship between the cute, petite blonde when I was at Northport Junior High School and me. All I'm going to say about that is that was a good thing. That was a good thing. I didn't know it then, but thank God I took the advice, and that was a good thing. And I never forgot that. And when I saw that school teacher later, my junior high school teacher later, matter of fact, about 10 years ago, which would have been almost 40 years out of junior high school, we laughed about that and we talked about that. And I told her, I said, I appreciate that. And she goes, well, you were just a cute boy and so sweet. And I wanted to take, and I would want somebody to do that for me. And we went down that trail, but that was influential. And not to mention some of the guys down at, that were very influential in my life, the Roddenberrys, Roy Roddenberry, and some of the others down at Unity Baptist Church that taught us when we were young boys, took us camping. Richard Wires took us camping. Mr. I think it's Abernathy. Rufus, yeah, Abernathy, Rufus, help me, Gail. Rufus, his name was Rufus. Anyway, so, but those are things that if you get a chance to pay it forward, if you can't pay it, bless them, pay it forward, man. Just go be a blessing. David was just trying to provide a service out of no duty that he had. He was just doing it because he could. And he got scorned for it and lost his wife. Nabal met his maker and lost his life for it. So, wife for it. But be a blessing. Be a blessing. Appling, that's it. Rufus Appling. The Applings. So, thank you, Gail. And so anyway, I hope that blesses y'all. It's as Brandy says down here, it's the little things that matter, and little things can make a big difference. And when people do little things that makes a big difference in your life, you need to try to pay them back if you can. Not pay them back like you're trying to earn it, but just be a blessing to them. Let them know that they were a blessing. If you can help them, and then turn around and pay it for them, man. It's just little bitty things. It didn't take a whole lot to make a big difference. And so anyway, hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Good Lord willing, and the saints don't rise. And happy birthday to you and to the United States of America. Peace out.